Welcome to Revenue Mind, where revenue leaders get real about mental health. I'm Jolie. Stick around for honest stories, practical insights, and why well-being is the real bottom line. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Revenue Mind, a podcast where revenue leaders talk about all things mental health. I'm Jolie, your host, and with us is Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. I'm going to preface this conversation too. We have a 21-month-old who just woke up. So if you hear little shrieks, it's happiness, it's excitement, but her voice carries. And I work from home, so it's a blessing to get to hear the excitement. But sometimes she makes little cameo appearances with her voice.
Oh, that's awesome. This is what's happening right now.
Pup. Yeah, ours is downstairs, but I'm envious of that.
She's like, okay, so before we dive in, what makes you you?
What makes me me? Not taking work too seriously, but also taking it very seriously. And that makes no sense at all. We're all human at the end of the day. I'm going to get very philosophical right here. You did not prepare yourself for this. But no, it's like, especially working. So I work at Loxo. We help recruiters go and find the best talent. It's like matchmaking. It's not just go make a hire, but like who is the very best candidate for this company. So they're happy and they all work together. And so what makes me me is when you realize that there's 24 hours in the day. We work 8 hours of it, give or take. So you're like, oh, that's a third of the day. Well, you sleep 8 hours. So it's like half of it. And when you kind of look at this, not from a depressing point of view, but like, that's half my day every day. My adult working life that I'm working, like, I've got to have fun. If I'm not having fun, if I'm not enjoying it, like, I remember early in my career sitting in a big sterile conference room and I was like 45 minutes into this 2-hour meeting. I just was thinking to myself, like, I don't know if I can curse on here, but I was like, what the fuck am I doing spending time in this room? Like, I'm not engaged. I'm just going through the motions in and out. Like, is this what you really want to be doing for the next 40, 50, 60 years? And so I think what makes me me is just kind of figuring out like, okay, how do I mesh I'm very driven to achieve different goals, but also like, let's have some fun along the way. Let's do it in our way. Let's not follow the cut and dry, boring ass playbook that everyone runs, but melding, like, that's what I think makes companies unique also, is having a point of view that stems from like the culture is your employees at the end of the day. It's going to evolve over time and everything else. So how do you embrace all of that? So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer, bad answer, somewhere in between, but that's kind of what makes me in this work world.
Can you share a moment when you realized you were failing your own mental health, but didn't know it at the time? How did that realization hit you later?
Probably similar to what kind of experience I was saying earlier about early in my career when I was just sitting in a room. And I don't know if that was so much like mental health, but like looking back on it, that's definitely a signal of early on being engaged at work and what that means for you. So I think there is an element of people who are happy and fulfilled with their work carry themselves very differently than those who view it as drudge work, who don't enjoy what they do. Because whether you like it or not, you carry that baggage around with you everywhere else in your personal life, your energy levels, how you sleep. Like you very much internalize all that physically too. So that was early on something that I started to notice as I look back, but more specifically, like getting into when it was really starting to impact me was I I very much have a growth mindset, which is a blessing and a curse. A little ADD. So like I always want something new, something different. Like once I solve something, I don't want to say I truly master something is another level. But once I have strong working knowledge of something, I'm like, okay, cool. What's next? How can I like apply something else to this and everything else? So monkey mind goes all over the place. But I also realized that a lot of tasks were piling up and our team was growing, our goals were getting higher. And so as that workload increases, as the goals increase, as the stress increases, I started sacrificing the other things that keep me balanced in my life. So we talked about Friday health thoughts so far. That's like, I'm big into health, wellness, fitness. So I was working out less. Every night I go for a walk with our little one just to wind down, check out, separate. I work from home. So like separate work from personal time. And my stress was literally rising to the point where you could see it physically showing on myself as I was developing eczema on my face. And so these were all signals to me where I was just like, Sam, we've got to sort this out. Like you're not in a good spot. And looking back at it, if you ask me, Sam, what were you so stressed out about? Like I probably couldn't tell you 95% of that stuff that was stressing me at the time. And that's the other hard reality of it, is like these things that were just like, we have this deadline, you have to do this. What was it? And if you can't answer that, that's a signal that I use now is kind of like a front loading thing of, okay, I have to choose between going outside. We had a snow day the other day, and like in South Carolina, that never happens. And our little one wanted to go play. I'm like, all right, I have this interview I have to prep for and everything else. But if I look back 2 weeks from now, am I going to regret not going outside and playing with our daughter the first time she ever sees snow, or this interview that I'm probably not going to remember, to be completely honest, or just like little blips. So it's balancing all of that. And that's kind of, I don't know, just where I started to think long and hard about this whole concept.
That really resonates. One of my first episodes was Mason Cosby, and he was talking about purpose-driven work. The working 8 hours a day and not being passionate about what you're doing and just going through the motions and mundane. If you can find that passion, it's amazing. If you can tie your passion to what you do and every day is a different day and you have that growth mindset, you know, I feel badly for those that can't, and that's probably 95% of
Hmm.
people. I mean, I'm making up the number, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So the fact that, I get to do what I do, you're super passionate about what you do, we're really lucky.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've noticed is part of it is you can control. Can control what you control. Don't stress about what you can't. But the things you can control are understanding what are your motivators at the end of the day. Is it compensation? Is it just getting paid a lot? Is it being tied to the industry or the problem that you're solving for? Is it where you work physically? Is it like you want to live in California? You want to go be able to travel remotely and having that flexibility? Is it the people that you work with? It's not very rarely we check all those boxes. Like that we would all love to at the end of the day, but that's not exactly realistic. So if you really know your top 1 to 2 motivators, you'd be surprised by the amount of fulfillment that just gives you alone. So a lot of people I think just kind of take whatever job they can get or just get into something because it's what I know. I'm comfortable with it. I like this predictable, stable life. But if you do start to sense that feeling of like, I want a little bit more, having that conversation with yourself, be like, okay, what is more? Like what's this gap that I'm feeling? And having that conversation with yourself, like, don't go just start applying to a bunch of different jobs thinking that that's gonna fix it. Cause it might not be like the work or the people. And that you're just like, I want more money. I want to be able to flex, like have the flexibility to travel. Like once you sort that out, it makes everything else a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. For me, and I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but it's definitely to make a difference in the world. Could be really small difference, but just to help people help themselves. I think that's my biggest mission. So, what's the hardest truth you've had to face about how leadership impacts your mental health, and how did you confront it?
Comes at a cost. It's added responsibility. It's added ownership. I forget which president said it. It was like the buck stops here, right? So even if you hire someone and that person hires someone, they make a mistake, that's on you at the end of the day. And so I think there is a lot of weight that comes with that, but that cost doesn't have to be a bad thing either. One part of it's time trade off. And I think that's where structure really comes into play, especially as you and I are talking about like ADD, ADHD, everything else. Like once you figure out like what are your good focus blocks, what do you need to do to get energy back in your day? Once you get to a certain level where you do have like multiple people who are asking you for things, you need to make decisions, like just winging it doesn't work anymore, or you're going to have a breakdown. It's just going to come crashing down. Spoken from a little bit of experience there. Just learned from my skin knees experiment. So there's that element to it, but kind of back to like those motivations that we were talking about earlier, where when you know what your motivations are, that cost may or may not be worth it. If you're driven by compensation, if you are like me where you get bored easily, like this is a good track for you. You're like you'll either get paid a lot, you always have something new, a new challenge to confront, a new problem to solve. If you seek more stability, more predictable work where you can master something really well and enjoy that daily, like maybe leadership isn't for you. And that's not a bad thing. There's IC tracks that are phenomenal for that. So I think that's again one of those internal conversations that you need to have with yourself to think about, what kind of burden do you want to have? Like how do you want to form your path and trajectory, and then you can go from there.
So, for your first leadership role at Refine Labs, If you could talk to your younger self the night before, what's the one thing you'd warn yourself about mental health in this space?
Yeah, this was a heavy one. Your words carry a lot more weight now than they ever have before. And it doesn't just impact you and that person in that individual spot, but it could impact them, their families, like the trickle down effect from all of that. So, what does that actually mean? Our CEO currently at Loxo, Matt, always talks about, like the hard thing about hard things, like that is part of leadership at the end of the day. So, words carrying weight is if you dance around things, have everyone be your best friend, like, yeah, it feels good, but that might withhold their growth. That might withhold company growth. That might be masking something that needs to be said or done. So there's that element to it. But also, when you're forced to think about what you say, you have to learn how to be clear and succinct with it. Because if you leave gray area, if you leave room for a lot of vague interpretation, like there could be second and third order effects of that, whether that conversation is, well, Sam said this, or, oh, I thought when you said, I was going to get a raise that you met next month, not next year. Like there's all these different things that you have to prepare for ahead of time. And that's part of it's like, until you have those conversations the first time, you have to learn from that experience. You don't know. So that's the other hard part of it is like why I say learn to really think about what you say, but all those scenario based things, you almost do have to mess up the first time in order to get the lesson.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of something I talked about. There's no playbook. We all think there's this playbook.
Mm.
There's no playbook. I think Evan, you said that.
Yeah. I think it's like, and that's the other part of leadership is knowing the inner mind and workings of those who are on your team and how to communicate with them, knowing what makes them tick, knowing you might have to deliver the same news to 5 different people on your team. But like you said, there's no playbook for everything. How you deliver that news, that's the goal. But the mechanism for doing it should be 5 different ways if you want to have it land and be understood by each of them at the level that you need it to.
So that brings me actually to my next question. What's one habit or belief you've let go of that used to define your success, but was quietly destroying your well being?
No, being busy is a sign of importance. Mm-mm. Like if my calendar is filled with more meetings than I have time to do actual work, that means I've become a bottleneck either to my company, to my team. I'm not prioritizing things well for myself. I'm not empowering my team to take on work or delegating the things that they do right. So I don't know. I remember early in my career seeing my manager, my manager's calendar. I'm just like, wow, they've got meetings for 6 hours today. They must be making so many decisions. They're so important. And then you get to that like 5 to 10 years into your career and you're just like, this sucks. I don't want to be in here half this time. Like it's unless you're a sales rep who likes to talk, like it's not something that most people enjoy doing, just like being on at that level for 8 hours a day. Like I love deep work. I love focusing on one problem and solving that. So yeah, for me, that was a huge, huge thing that I realized a handful of years ago. It's just like I set my calendar in a way that I have blocks for like work. I have my little meeting blocks. Okay, if I'm gonna have conversations, I'm gonna do it at the time where, I've got the caffeine flowing through me. I'm good. I'm in a good energy state. I take lunch, I do a few more, and then I wind down because I know after that, like I'm gonna be wiped. I can't do it. Like that's another like heads down work time. So if something needs to be done before then, if I have to make an important decision, someone's like, "Hey, we need to meet on this," and I'm just like, "Cool, what's the priority level? Like, does this take importance over this, or is it just like we just want to do it right now? Like, does it really need to be though?" So, yeah, those busy calendars overrated.
Yeah, it's like the priority matrix.
Eisenhower, yeah, I love that. Urgent, important, yeah,
I haven't
impactful,
done it
like
yet.
any of those.
Oh, sorry.
Well worth it.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, just like urgency is one side, importance or impact on the other side. So many things that we do are high urgence, low impact. It's like, what are we doing? Why is that taking up 80% of our tasks when we know so many things that make our business grow in significant ways are low urgency but high impact? And so, funny enough, that's something every quarter, my team, we have it coming up next week. We call it Marketing Hack Week. We stole it from engineers and developers, where it's just like, pick 2 projects that you like, something you either want to learn or something that you just need a lot of heads down time on, because it's a meaty thing. It's not important or not urgent in the sense it has to be done right now. But if we do it well, like, it can drive significant results for the company, for your growth, for your learning. And so carving that into our team system is something that, like, we'll forever keep. I'll forever champion that concept.
That's amazing. That actually aligns with the next question. What's a decision you've made as a leader that prioritized your team's mental health over business metrics, and how did that turn out?
I think this one's continuing to reiterate, like, yes, this is our CEO's baby, founder, co-founder. They started this company. But even though they will say this, like, at the end of the day, we're selling software. It's very important. Like, especially with the software that we build, like, it helps recruiters find candidates. It leads to employment, like, that's economic impact and everything else. But in the same time, so much of what we're doing is not so important that it can't be pushed out an hour, a day, a week, to take those moments like the snow day with our little one, to go visit grandma, to talk to that friend who's been calling for 3 weeks that you can't line up calendars for. So I'd say that's something that, like, I try to exhibit as much as I can with our team, and also continue to tell them, like, I'll have someone who's just like, "Oh, I was sick over the weekend. I'm feeling a little better." I'm like, "Cool. Like, if 2 hours from now you're wiped out, take the rest of the day." Like, what we do isn't time sensitive to the point where you have to sacrifice your health, recovering better, anything else. So that, I think, has a ripple effect, and just the team also understanding prioritization of work, of life, how I approach things, and also what they can feel comfortable talking to me about, and knowing what I value with everything, just being a little bit more grounded and not this, like, ruthless dictator business manager that's, work at all costs, you're a cog in the machine. It's like, no, like, enjoy your work. Again, you're spending half your day here. If I'm grinding you through this meat grinder, like, what good is that going to do for you at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think a big theme that I've noticed throughout this podcast is the hustle culture and how we're backing away from it, which is really
Mhm.
interesting. I mentioned in one of my episodes that there is no silver lining to COVID. Millions of people died. But if there was a silver lining to COVID, it transformed the way we work and I think it set our priorities straight.
Yeah. Yeah. Challenge the playbook, right? You're not working if you're not in the office. Finding talent globally. That, honestly, to me, is one of the biggest things that it's unfortunate to see right now with the return to office. I'm really like, our CEOs even said, like, why would we ever go back to that when now I can hire the very best people across the world, let alone in one 20-minute radius of a certain city? Like, why would you do that as a business? He's like, when you think about it from a truly logical perspective, that makes no sense. Like, unless you're in this hub, San Francisco, but look how expensive that's getting, and that's turning so many people away from ever wanting to live there, being able to afford to live there. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Completely agree. And speaking of playbooks, that might be the title of our show. If
The anti-playbook playbook.
yeah, I like that. That's a good one. If you were to build a mental health manifesto for revenue leaders, what would the first line say?
You're talking about hustle culture a minute ago. Don't fall for that martyrdom trap. You hear it all the time. The Elon Musk's, the CEO from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, like, these executives, these business leaders who work 100-hour weeks, they have phenomenal success stories. Like, look at how much our company grew. Look at this big challenge that we solved for. But behind that martyrdom, I also say, like, what's going on behind the scenes. And this is where I love to read biographies. I also there's a podcast called Founders Podcast. I don't know if you listen to it. Definitely check it out. It's phenomenal. But he basically goes in and unpacks all these different founders, business leaders over time. And one thing that you see in so many backgrounds is, like, yes, they have these incredible business results, but they also, more often than not, have bad health. They have multiple marriages. They have poor relationships with their family and children. So what I say is, okay, there's a clear trade-off there. And so in this hustle culture, like, what are they giving up? You're giving up your health, you're giving up relationships, you're giving up all these other things that keep us balanced. So mental health manifesto, I'd say, is like, unless you would look at any of these leaders and say, I would be willing to trade not just for their business success, but for their entire life. Like, would you swap places with them and take on their shitty marriages, their lack of relationships with their children, their obesity, they're struggling mental health, to have that resume, would you? So I personally wouldn't, but that's something that I think about when I do see these people that are driving this crazy success is like, well, tell me more about it. You see these people talking about these crazy routines. I wake up at 4:30, I cold bath, I do like all these things, and I'm like, tell me you don't have a kid without telling me you don't have a kid. Like that's not real life for so many people. And like yeah, you could have a kid and do all that, but again, like, are you trading off the relationship with them? So I don't know. Those are the things that I kind of think through when you bring up that question.
I love that. I think it's all about what is this going to cost me? Something my fiance and I talk about is when all of it's over and we're on our deathbeds, are we really going to care that we're billionaires or millionaires or, insert title here or insert accomplishment here? No, we're going to remember the people that we love and the moments that we made.
hmm I mean, the compensation comes, that's a reward at the end of the day for doing work. And few people get to, preface this, few people ethically get to high compensation without, if they're not doing something that they truly love or are passionate about. Like that's why you see so many founders are scratching their own itch to solve a problem. Yes, you can get corrupt. Yes, you can embezzle things. Like, yeah, there are other ways of getting rich. But as I say, like, if you want to ethically go about this, very few people are just like, man, there's this problem that I know how to solve. I don't love it, but I'm just going to do it. Like, they fizzle out. They sell the company early. There's that type of thing. So, yeah, to your point is when you're on your deathbed, you're like, I made an impact. We started this thing. We solved this problem. Like, yeah, we made money, but that, to what you said earlier at the beginning, it's like making an impact is what you're going to remember.
Exactly. What legacy do I want to leave on this world? What do I want to propel to future generations? How do you handle moments when it feels like you're failing both as a leader and as a human?
Oh, um, failing as a leader and as a human. Fix the human side first. Priorities are probably out of whack. Leadership, so thinking about business and personal, something's out of whack. I think if you're failing as a leader and a human, if you're failing as a leader, probably because you're failing as a human. I don't think if you fail as a leader, but doing well as a human, that's different, a different subset of a problem. So struggling is both. I think you just need to figure out what it is that's going on. And so it could be going back to that conversation we had earlier about like, are your priorities just not in line? Are the things that are important to you are out of whack? But there used to be, I mean, again, this comes from like the biographies and stuff that I read all the time, but leaders and people who used to like we all revere and have made changes, you look at them, a lot of them are known for like going and taking a week out in the woods in a cabin, just like getting away. And some of them, yes, they're solving company problems, but more often than not, it's just like it's time to just step back, reflect, like, and we all do this now. Like we do it in our 20-minute walks and think that that's respite, but different conversation for another day there. But that's when you usually start to have those aha moments where it's like, when I noticed like my burnout was coming in and everything, I was like, well, yeah, this is the first walk I've had in a week. Like usually used to have this every day. So understanding what's going on at the personal level and also like defining that failure. Is it failure to show up? Is it failure to communicate well? Is it failure to manage your emotions? And so understanding all of that for yourself, I think it's a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of self-awareness. Some people are good at journaling. Some people talk to themselves. Some people need to do like video of themselves. I don't know. Like everyone's different. Anti-playbook playbook. But I would fix that because if you fix the human side, that's probably going to trickle down into your leader because you're probably struggling as a leader because you're in a shitty spot. If you're still struggling as a leader, but you fix the human side, well, probably the same kind of subset. Are you failing to communicate with your team? Are you not understanding the company goals? Are you just not feeling the work? And then kind of go from there. But I think 10 out of 10 times I would prioritize the human side first versus the leader side first. Because if you prioritize the leader side first, some of those opportunity costs we were talking about earlier, your family, your relationships, your health might struggle thinking that you're putting a Band-Aid on this leadership stuff. Oh, our business growing again, but that's because I'm working more hours than ever before. It's like, well, that's going to have a downfall. Let that play out for a month and see how things go then.
I completely agree. I think I've said this before, but I wasn't good for a while. I wasn't good for a while due to a lot of things. And once I got good, I could be there for the people that really needed me. And that could be just across the board, personally, professionally. But you have to be good in your head and your heart, just kind of physically, mentally, spiritually, and to be your best self.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. You don't have the energy to do it if you don't otherwise. It's like, it's not even that they're talking to you, but you're checked out. You're not paying attention. You're eyeing to the conversation. So that's doing no one good. And that's draining you even more too.
So this kind of brings me to the wrap up. And I think a lot of us are expected to be invincible.
Hmm.
It's a lot of what we talked about today. How do you teach your team and yourself that it's okay to be human sometimes?
We learn from failure. I don't know how to call it. My CEO today was just like, hey, we're going to talk about this. There's multiple of us in the room. I know it was the leadership team. So he's just like, but again, I do this to help us learn, to grow, to improve. And so, like, one, that's being human, to recognize failure. And that's like, you can take it as, well, there goes my ego. I'm just going to shut up and not do anything for a couple months while I take this blow to the face. Or it's like, yeah, let's learn from it. Like, let's figure out what just happened and then press on. Like, okay, we had this meeting. I just learned, I took that input, like, apply it. So, separate from that semi related story, I do my best to be transparent with the team. So, kind of like what brought us together in this conversation. It's like I talk openly about certain things, like talk openly about burnout. I encourage them to check out how we were saying earlier. Like, if you need to go to a doctor, you're not feeling well, like, go do it. If you want to go and take your kid to the park because it's a beautiful day and all they've been talking about is the elephants that they want to see at the zoo, like, go take them to see the elephants at the zoo. But so much of our stress is coming from deadlines that are self-imposed, especially in the software world. When we really think about it, it's like, unless you're an engineer shipping code that has to be done a certain day, like, I look at my Asana board and the due dates are all assigned by myself. It's like, well, I know okay, how much can I get through in 8 hours, in 10 hours, whatever it is. And I have this list that I want to get through. And at the end of the day, I'll be stressed out if there's still like 5 things left on my list. And my wife will be like, hey, you good? Like, I'm like, no, I have to work tonight. I have to catch back up. I go take my walk, their little one. I eat dinner. I open my computer back up at the end of the night and I look at those 5 things. I'm like, I can do these tomorrow. Like, what am I talking about? None of this has to be done today. I just wanted it to be done today so I can get on to the next thing. So these are the types of things how you and I were talking before we started recording, where it's like we feel on our own, like we're on an island where we don't have these people that understand this or anything else. But the more that we can talk about these problems that we feel, these stressors that come up in our daily lives and just openly say like, yeah, it's work. Like, can be done tomorrow. This is my doing. It's not life or death situation or anything else. It's I think just bringing more light to these conversations, especially for your team members to model that behavior. They understand, like, it's different when they see you walking the walk, not just like saying things and passing, oh, take your time off, and then they see you sending Slack messages to them at 9:30 at night. Like, no, one, you schedule send on Slack, for the love of God. Like, do not stress your team out with that. But two, it really is, it's just that it's emulating the behavior. So they're just like, oh, like, he really did just take an hour off to go be outside. Like, okay, like, he means that. He's not just saying that in passing. So I don't know, maybe that kind of helps, but does that answer the question a little bit, or is there some different layer of invincibility that you want me to get into?
No, I love it. I think we don't realize, especially when we're young, how precious time is. Especially, you with kids.
Mhm.
Sorry, was it son or daughter?
Daughter.
Your daughter wants to go out and be in the snow. We can be so hyper focused on wanting to succeed that we don't go play in the snow. And then she remembers that.
Mhm.
Your boss doesn't remember that you got it at 4 p.m., but your daughter will remember that you didn't go out with her.
Yeah. Sam, you didn't get this done at 3 p.m. I told you it need to be done at 3 p.m., but you got it to me at 4 p.m. Oh, that's unacceptable. Like, no, that doesn't exist. And if it does, leave, run fast.
Yeah, exactly. So this was awesome. Thank you so much. Where
Yeah.
can you find you?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, sharing thoughts a lot there. Substack, just samkuehnle.com. Yeah, those are the main spots. Other than that, I tend to be a hermit and just stay in my house and do stuff with our family and hide out from social media otherwise.
Love it. Well, thank you again. That's a wrap for Revenue Mind, where we cut the BS and spotlight mental health and revenue leadership. I'm Jolie, reminding you your mindset is your competitive edge. Thanks for listening. See you next time.